The dog wouldn't budge. Ears flat, chest heaving. He stood guard like something sacred lay beneath the rusted crib, half swallowed by moss and time. Officer Eli Mercer had seen all kinds of grief in the woods outside Wren Hollow, but this felt different, something deeper. The frost clung to his boots, and the breath in his lungs felt borrowed. Then, from under the tangled brush and iron lattice, came a sound so fragile, so raw. It cracked through his ribs like a blade. A cry, not animal, not wind, human, infant. And with it, everything Eli thought he knew began to unravel. The call came in just after dawn, static-filled dispatch from a logging crew that had spotted something strange near the Ridge-Off Elkwood Trail. Something that sounded like a baby. The dispatcher had almost laughed, except the foreman hadn't. He sounded shaken. By the time Officer Eli Mercer arrived, the men were already gone, left a blaze-orange marker tied to a pine branch. Wren Hollow didn't do mysteries. People drank. People fought. People disappeared sometimes. But there were no riddles in this town. Just old sins buried under older trees. "Let's go, Boone," Eli muttered, releasing the latch on the cruiser's back hatch. The German shepherd leapt out, nose to the earth before his paws hit it. Boone wasn't just trained. He was intuitive. Saved Eli's life once in a meth lab standoff. Since then, the dog never left his side. They followed the trail deep into woods, past rusting deer stands and broken fences long forgotten. And then Boone stopped, dead center in a clearing surrounded by crooked pines. The dog froze, tail low, ears pinned, head tilted. "What is it, boy?" Eli's voice lowered instinctively. Boone let out a single bark, short and tight like a warning. Then he padded forward, slowly, toward a shape nestled in the ferns and frost. A crib, metal bars, chip paint. Victorian, maybe. The kind you'd see in an antique store, not in the goddamn woods. A mildew-stained baby blanket hung from one corner. Wind creaked the frame like an old swing. Boone stepped closer, then stopped again, and sat. Eli approached, hand hovering near his holster, though he didn't know why. The smell hit first, not rot, but old damp wood, earth, something floral and faint. Then he saw it. Inside the crib, torn stuffing from what must have once been a plush animal, a cracked pacifier, and something else. A shape half buried under a pile of leaves and sticks. And then, the cry. High-pitched, weak, but unmistakably alive. Eli's heart rocketed. He dropped to his knees beside the crib, pushing back the debris. Boone whined low and nudged the frame with his snout. Nestled beneath the pile, curled into herself like a dried autumn leaf, was a baby. Pale, mottled skin, but alive, barely. Wrapped in what looked like an old sweater 2 sizes too big. Stiff with cold. Her tiny fist clutched a ripped corner of what might have once been a photo. Eli didn't move right away. His body knew before his brain did. This wasn't right. Nothing about this was right. Still, he reached in. "Got you," he whispered. She was ice, bones and silence and fading breath. Back at the station, the baby was rushed to county medics and airlifted to St. Alora's pediatric ICU. They said she might make it, or she might not, but it was close. Boone hadn't left the baby's side until the helicopter doors closed. Eli had to leash him and physically pull him back. Now, standing in the break room of Wren Hollow's tiny 2-man police department, Eli watched the frost melting off his boots. He felt the sweat clinging under his vest. His hands still trembled. Deputy Marla Hart leaned against the counter, flipping through her notepad. No prints on the crib. Not even yours. Somehow. Eli blinked. "What?" "Yeah. CSU, scan it top to bottom. Nothing. Like it was placed there by ghosts. I didn't wear gloves." She raised an eyebrow. "Maybe you didn't touch what mattered." Eli looked at her. Marla was sharp, had a sharp tongue, too. People called her cold, but she wasn't just armored. Rumor was she'd been fired from a bigger city force. Drugs. Something messy. But Eli never asked. Everyone in Wren Hollow had secrets. That's why they stayed. "Any hits on missing babies?" he asked. Marla shook her head. Closest was a 6-month-old taken in Seattle 6 months ago. Doesn't match. DNA? County swamped. Could be days. Maybe more. The coffee burned on the way down. Eli didn't care. His mind was still in the woods. That night, sleep didn't come. Instead, Eli found himself driving. Not aimlessly. He knew exactly where he was going. The ridge. The clearing. The crib. But when he got there, headlights sweeping over the pines, his chest went tight. The crib was gone. Only the indents in the soil remained. Boone whined and trotted in circles, sniffing wildly. What the hell? He scanned the woods with a flashlight. No drag marks. No tire tracks. No broken branches. Just frost and silence and the hush of the trees watching him. Boone barked once, sharply, then ran. Eli followed, crashing through underbrush until he caught up. The dog was pacing in a small hollow near an old hunting blind. Inside, a nest, blankets, a bottle, a box of powdered formula. Recent. Someone had been living here with a baby, and they'd left fast. Too fast. Eli stood in the hollow, breathing hard. Boone circled once, then sat, ears high, staring at something. A tree, stripped bare except for one thing, taped to the bark. A Polaroid. Eli stepped closer. It was a photo of him, not recent, maybe 6 years ago, in uniform, standing next to his cruiser, smiling, written across the bottom in Sharpie. You owe her. Back at the station, Eli slammed the photo onto Marla's desk. Jesus, she muttered, squinting at it. Where was this? Near the ridge. Crib's gone. Someone took it clean. Marla ran a hand through her hair. You recognize the photo? He nodded slowly. My ex took it. Dana, when we first moved here. So someone's been watching you, or had access to your place. Eli's jaw clenched. I want to run that blanket the baby had. Test it for prints or fibers. Anything. You think someone's trying to frame you? I don't know what the hell this is. Marla didn't respond right away. She stared at the photo like it was radioactive. Then she said, You ever tell me why you left Seattle PD? Eli froze. No. She nodded slowly. Didn't think so. When Eli got home, Boone went straight to the door of the guest bedroom and sat. Stared. Growled. Eli opened the door. Empty. Just dust and boxes in a crib. No, that wasn't right. He'd thrown out that crib 3 years ago. After Dana left, after the miscarriage. But there it was, put back together, clean, as if waiting. Eli backed out of the room slowly and shut the door. Boone barked, sharp, urgent. There was something in the crib. Eli opened the door again, heart hammering. Inside the crib was a folded piece of paper. A note. He picked it up with trembling fingers. Scrawled in rough handwriting. You left her once. Don't leave her again. The note shook in Eli's hands. He read it 3 times, each word heavier than the last. You left her once. Don't leave her again. Boone let out a soft whine and nudged Eli's leg. His eyes were locked on the crib. Eli backed out of the room and shut the door, breathing hard through his nose like a man trying not to drown. The crib shouldn't have been there. Dana had sold it. He remembered helping her haul it to a woman across town who'd just had twins. That was right after the miscarriage, right before the divorce. Yet here it was, polished, placed, waiting. Eli poured himself a half glass of bourbon, then sat at the kitchen table, staring at the grain of the wood. His hands wouldn't stop twitching. Someone was trying to get in his head, and they were already there. The photo, the note, the baby, and now the crib. In the morning, he returned to the clearing with Marla. The grass was still bent where the crib had stood. She examined the hollow near the hunting blind. No prints. Same as before. Eli nodded. Whoever's doing this knows what they're doing. Gloves, bleach, maybe? They want to be invisible. Boone sniffed the ground and then darted to a nearby pine. He barked once and sat. Another note, folded and tucked under a stone. Marla opened it. This time, no handwriting, just a printout, an old article, Seattle Times, dated 6 years ago. Officer cleared in botched raid. 3 dead, child missing. Eli went cold. He snatched it from her hands. He didn't have to read the article. He'd memorized every word. The warrant had been bad. Address off by 1 digit. A meth house raided by mistake. 3 dead, including a woman who tried to shield her child. The baby had vanished in chaos. His body had never been found. Until now, Eli had managed to keep that chapter sealed. Buried. Marla stared at him. You were there. He nodded slowly. I gave the all clear to breach. You never said. I never wanted to. Her voice lowered. You think this baby's the one from that raid? It's impossible. That baby would be nearly 6 now. And this one, 6 months. Maybe less. Marla stepped back, suddenly uneasy. What the hell is going on here, Eli? He looked at the article again. I think someone wants me to pay for something. Maybe not the raid itself, but for surviving it, for walking away. Boone barked sharply again. From across the clearing. Another note, different this time. Taped to a small mason jar buried half in the dirt. Inside, ashes. Gray. Fine. Sealed with wax. A tag hung from the lid. You'll remember when it matters. Marla turned to Eli. What the hell does that mean? He didn't answer, because he was starting to remember something he had tried very hard to forget. That night, Eli drove to the address listed in the raid report. The house had been torn down years ago. Now it was a hollow lot, chained off, graffitied, overgrown. Still, he sat there, Boone in the passenger seat, as memories pressed down. He'd told himself the baby hadn't been real, that the report had been mistaken, that the mother had lied in panic. No body was found. No records. The system had eaten it. But the more he remembered her, dark hair, wild eyes, the way she screamed "Don't hurt her" as she ran down the hallway, the more it started to scrape at him. He opened his glove box and pulled out a photo of Dana, her last day in Wren Hollow, standing beside that same crib, a soft smile that never reached her eyes. They'd split not long after, but she hadn't cried when she left, because she'd already done all the crying in the hospital. Back in town, Eli walked into the clinic where Dr. Petrovos worked. She'd examined the baby before the medevac. A blunt woman, former military, no patience for guessing games. She looked up from her desk. Mercer, I need the full rundown. Baby girl from the woods. She pulled a folder from the stack. Beside her, frostbite on her feet, malnourished, no visible bruising, but stress fractures on her left arm. Old, healed, poorly. Could that happen in a fall? Maybe, or from being yanked too hard. He nodded. Blood work. Still pending. But prelims are weird. Weird how? Petra flipped the page. She's got a rare blood type. AB negative. Less than 1% of the population. And this might be coincidence, but... Eli leaned in. What? That's your blood type, right? He froze. Yeah. So is Dana's. He stared at her. Petra held up her hands. I'm not saying it's your kid, Mercer, but something's off. Someone went to a hell of a lot of trouble to make this girl appear, and then vanish. I need to talk to Dana. Petra raised a brow. You two still talk? Not for years. She nodded. Then maybe you better start. He found Dana in Boise. She worked at a nonprofit for at-risk youth. Her face had hardened, still beautiful but quieter, more tired. When she opened her apartment door and saw him, she didn't look surprised. Took you long enough, she said. Eli stood silent for a moment. Is she mine? Dana sighed, stepped aside, and let him in. The place was warm, sparse, lived in. She sat on the arm of the couch, arms folded. No, she's not yours, but she was ours. Eli blinked. I don't understand. Dana looked away. After I left, I wanted to start over. There was a girl I met through the shelter. Young, hurt, addicted, pregnant. And she didn't want the baby, didn't trust foster care. She asked if I'd take her. Said she'd disappear if I didn't. So I did. You adopted her? I never finished the paperwork. It was quiet, off-grid. She trusted me. Eli sat heavily. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know if I could handle it. And because she reminded me too much of what we lost. He fell hollow. Where is she now? Dana's face darkened. That's why I expected you. She vanished 2 weeks ago. I came home, and the crib was empty. Window open. No forced entry. Just a note on the wall. She handed it to him. Familiar handwriting. She belongs where sins began. On the drive back, Boone was restless. Eli's thoughts churned. If the baby wasn't his, if she wasn't a child from the raid, then someone was using her as a symbol, a weapon. But why? He didn't sleep when he got home. Just sat with the bourbon again, watching shadows stretch across the wall. At some point, Boone let out a growl that stopped Eli cold. A figure stood on the porch. Marla. He opened the door. She held up a sealed envelope. Found this in my mailbox. No postmark. Inside, a flash drive. They plugged it into his laptop. One video file. They watched in silence. Grainy footage. Night vision. A woman in a cabin, holding the baby, singing softly. Then a voice off camera. Mail. Calm. Cold. You did well. But she's back where she belongs now. The woman nodded. Silent tears on her face. I want to see her again, she whispered. You won't. The video cut out. Marla was pale. You recognize the voice? She asked. Eli nodded slowly. I do. She leaned closer. Who? He swallowed hard. My brother. Eli stared at the paused video frame. His brother, Caleb, dead for 10 years. Except now Eli wasn't sure of anything. Caleb had been the smart one. Charismatic. Manipulative. He could talk a snake into tying itself in a knot. He'd gone to war early, came back broken. Paranoid. Obsessed with systems, conspiracies, foster homes, experiments on kids. He claimed he'd seen things in the desert he wasn't supposed to. Claimed children were being reprogrammed by the government. Eli had written it off as PTSD. So had everyone else. Until Caleb's car washed up in the river with no body, and a suicide note scrawled on a gas receipt. The sheriff had called it open and shut. But something about the video haunted Eli. That voice, the cadence, the cold, perfect control. It wasn't the Caleb he remembered. It was the Caleb he'd buried. Marla broke the silence. If your brother's alive, that changes everything. He's not just alive, Eli said. He's orchestrating this. All of it. The baby, the crib, the raid article. It's a message. What's he trying to say? Eli stared at the screen. He thinks I'm part of it. That I was complicit. In what? In losing her. In leaving her. Maybe not just this baby. Maybe others. I think he believes I turned my back when it mattered most. Did you? Eli didn't answer. Marla took the flash drive. I'll run a trace. If he uploaded this from anywhere near here, we'll find a signal trail. Cell tower pings, maybe more. Thanks, Eli said, voice tight. But this doesn't end with a signal. It ends in those woods. They returned to the forest with Boone at dawn. The mist was heavier today. Like the trees were holding their breath. Boone pulled them deeper than before, past the original clearing, through a gully littered with broken branches and animal bones, until they reached a part of the woods Eli didn't recognize. That was when they found the cabin. Old, crooked, leaning into the slope like it was ashamed. No address. No sign it had ever been mapped. Eli stepped forward, but Boone barked, low and guttural. Not warning. Defiant. Stay here, Eli said to Marla and pushed open the door. Inside, silence. No furniture. Just a cot. Empty glass jars on the floor. Ashes in a rusted stove. And in the center, a bassinet. Inside it, a blanket. But no baby. He moved closer. The blanket was blood-stained. Small. Familiar. It was the same one the baby had clutched when he first found her. Eli picked it up. A photo was folded underneath. Him, Caleb, Dana, and a little girl, laughing, somewhere on a beach. But Eli had never seen that child before. On the back, in Caleb's handwriting, Now, do you remember? The air shifted behind him. You should have come sooner. Eli spun around. Caleb stood in the doorway, alive, older, gaunt, but those eyes still burned. Boone growled, his whole body taut. Caleb raised his hands. Easy, Boone. I'm not here to hurt anyone. Eli didn't lower the gun. You faked your death. No, I shed it. What the hell is this? Some test? Some twisted message. Caleb stepped inside. You never saw them, Eli. Not really. The kids taken in the chaos. The ones we failed to report. They became data points. Case files. Erased. Eli's jaw clenched. What does this have to do with her? Caleb nodded at the bassinet. She's the daughter of one of those ghosts. Eli felt the ground shift beneath him. You took her. I rescued her. The people she was with, they weren't parents. They were handlers. That's a lie. Is it? Caleb stepped closer. Did you ever ask where she came from? Or did you just wrap her in a warm blanket and feel better about yourself? Eli's voice cracked. What did you do to Dana? Nothing. She knew the truth, too. She was just too afraid to face it. Boone barked sharply. Caleb flinched. You sent those notes, Eli said. The crib, the raid report, the ashes. Caleb nodded. All memories, all anchors. You needed to remember what you lost. What we lost. Eli's hand tightened on the gun. What are you planning? I already did it. I gave her to someone who can protect her. Who? A woman named Yelena. Former whistleblower. Off-grid. She's building something better. Safe. You took her from Dana. I returned her to truth. Eli lowered the gun slightly. You think this redeems you? No, Caleb said. But it might redeem you. Boone growled again. Then Eli heard the crunch of leaves behind him. Marla, gun drawn. I tracked the signal. There's a transmitter behind the stove. Caleb smiled. Of course there is. I wanted you to find me. Marla looked at Eli. What do you want to do? Eli stared at his brother. He's insane, but he's not wrong. Caleb tilted his head. That's the most honest thing you've said in 20 years. They took Caleb in. Quietly. No headlines. No charges yet. Just a psychiatric hold at the county hospital with unlisted records. Caleb didn't resist. Just nodded and said, the work continues. Boone sat outside the door the whole night, refusing to leave. A week later, Eli got a call. From Petra. She'd gotten the full genetic profile back. Eli, she said, there's something you need to know. He waited. The baby! She's not biologically related to you or Dana, but she's still connected. How? She's Caleb's. The line went quiet. He sank into the nearest chair. Caleb had a child, and now she was out there. Somewhere. Safe. Maybe. Or just gone. That night, he drove to the clearing again. Boone sat beside him, tail flicking. The crib was gone. Only the outline in the grass remained. Eli took out the old note. You left her once. Don't leave her again. He folded it into his coat pocket. Then he picked up the blanket she'd left behind. Boone nudged his arm. Together, they walked into the woods. Not chasing a ghost, but something that still might be saved. Quiet resolution. Months passed. Dana eventually moved back to Wren Hollow. They didn't talk about what happened. Not directly. But some days she stopped by with groceries. Some days she walked Boone when Eli was on shift. They were rebuilding. Slowly. The forest remained quiet. But every so often, a hiker reported hearing the cry of a baby in the distance. Soft. Lingering. Then gone. Eli never went looking. Because sometimes you don't chase the past. You just make sure the next time you don't turn away.